My name is Patricia Kihoro, and I am a singer. It's been a really long time since I said that, but for the longest time, that's who I was, a singer. It's all I did. In fact, I think I was born singing. I remember singing and talking and singing and talking. Now, I was known for two things as a child, being a singer and being a tomboy. So that meant even when I got hurt, by the time I said I was in pain, it was probably because I was on the brink of death. But otherwise, I was just, anything could happen and I was okay. Just a little bit of pain, I'd adjust. Now with the singing, I sang everywhere. I sang in the shower, in the bathtub, in the toilet. I sang as I ate. I sang in church, in school. I sang in the car. I sang riding my bike. I sang walking to school. I just sang everywhere. I was known as that singing girl. In primary school, I was the one who would go around and teach the students the solfa notations, when we're doing the practicals for music, because nobody else would get it. So I'd go around to all the classes and teach them, or the ta, 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 ta. In high school, of course, I knew I was going to do music. And, I joined the music class, but there was a quota that had to be reached for physics students. So I ended up doing physics because I was good in it, but then I couldn't do music at the same time. So I ended up doing agriculture. Doesn't make sense. But, I still sang. I sang in the mass choir. I sang for the president. It didn't matter. As long as I could sing, I would. I thought then that in university I would go to the Berklee College of Music. Like I had a plan. I just knew I was going to sing. And unfortunately, because Berklee is quite expensive, I ended up not going to the Berklee College of Music. But I figured, it doesn't matter if I don't study it, I'll still sing. I found myself in a studio somewhere, and I was singing jingles for products, for radio stations, for TV commercials. I even remember doing a gig called Jazzalori. It didn't matter what it was. I would sing, and I would sing, and I would sing. Now, you know how it is in Kenya. We started getting these music competitions that we'd watch in the States. So the first one that came around was Coca-Cola Pop Stars. And I remember auditioning for that because, hey, here's my break. And I knew I could sing, right? I'd never auditioned for a show like this, so obviously by the time I got into the room, I was a little bit nervous. There was a long line of people, so I was there from morning but got to audition at maybe around 4. And I went into the room and they were now trying to speed things up. You just start, I woke up next, and I was like, sorry, maybe you didn't hear me? But I chalked it up to maybe he was tired. There was a whole panel, but there was one guy from South Africa who was now doing let me just listen, I think I'll hear it. And I was one of those people who didn't even get past the first line. But I didn't think it was me with the problem. I just said, he must be tired. There must have been a spirit of something that just altered his hearing. I was like, it's okay, it's fine. It's just a competition. Beyonce did not audition for anything. She's still a superstar. Went on with my life. I just knew I was still going to sing, kept singing. And I knew eventually something would happen. If I just keep singing, keep putting myself in the right spaces, I'll end up doing what it is that I love in the scale that I want, right? Second musical competition came about, Idols East Africa. And I auditioned for that as well. And this time I got a little further along to the there's a section where now you're put up in a hotel, so at least I'm good at this. I'm staying in a very nice hotel, and there's lots of processes. But I didn't get to the top 24. And I was like, you know what, it's okay. I'm still growing. There are probably other people with interesting stories. It's fine, I can still sing. I didn't stop. I never for a second felt like this is not my thing. Third time around, Project Fame came. And by this point, I was like, maybe reality TV is not the thing for me. Let me just keep singing in this way, and I'll get to where I want to go. But then I have a friend who said, you are going to audition, I don't care. You know how they wake you up? Your mom wakes you up to go to church on the weekend. Wake up, wake up! That was my friend. We are going. So we go for this audition. Some people had been there since 5 a.m. I show up at 4. I'm just feeling like, these reality shows, surely. But I auditioned and I got through the first stage, and then the second, and then the third. And then I ended up in the hotel before we get into the house. And then I'm in the house and I'm like, oh, wow, look at you, you are in the house. Come on. So I'm like, okay, well, if I'm here, my goal is to get to the end of this show without being evicted. Let me just stay in the house. I don't want to watch this show from home, you know? And that happened. I didn't win, which was not my goal. Would have been nice to win, but I wasn't disappointed that I didn't. And what the show left me with was, okay, I'm on the right path. There was some drama around it, but for me, what I held on to was, nobody said I was singing badly. Is there anybody who's saying, and even the way she, no. Everybody was still, yeah, she was a good singer. So drama aside, she's still a good singer. And for me, okay, the plan is working. So at some point, somebody reached out to me. She worked with an international organization, and they needed a jingle for the conference that was happening in Nairobi. And you know, she was told Patricia is the person to get in touch with. And I was like, okay, great. And they needed a jingle. They needed it written and recorded. So I knew some people in the musical industry. I call up my friend. He's a producer. I'm like, hey, I have some money. We can just do a song, record it, and you know, have a good time while at it. And I remember being in studio with him, and as we're recording, and I'm just singing the way I know how to sing, and then he says something to me, which I didn't take too seriously, and I don't think he took it seriously either. He just said, your voice is one of those that needs some adjusting to make it sound good. Come again? So I didn't really think much of it, but it stuck. It was one of those statements that was like an attack on not just my singing, but on me, because I'm a singer, that's all I do. And as much as I didn't take it too seriously and I did the gig, the next time I was in a position where I was singing, it was in the back of my mind like, oh wait, so here I am singing live. Do I think I sound good? Do I really sound good? Are my friends lying to me? Have they been lying to me all this time? Are they just good friends who have been supportive? Then I started thinking about auditioning at all these shows, you know, and I'm like, you know, there are people we watch and we laugh at, and we ask, where are their friends? So I was like, have I been lying to myself all this time? Was I in the house maybe just because I looked cute or I was there to fill some storyline? So I started then now thinking, okay, wait, maybe I'm not that good of a singer like I thought I was. But people are still calling me to sing. Some people actually pay me to do it. So I must not be that bad. But what this did was sort of poke at my identity, and I was like, you know what, maybe I should think about doing other things alongside this singing, because maybe I think I'm Beyonce, but really I'm not going to say anybody. But as time went on, I remember being called for an interview, for a TV interview, and this lady was doing the interviewing, and we sit there, and because she knew my backstory with Coca-Cola Pop Stars and with Idols and with TPF, I've sat there, I'm like, you know, I did this TV show, Project Fame had just happened, and she wants to get some more insight into me and, you know, what I'm doing. And the first question is, so Patricia, how does it feel to always come second or not really quite winning? You never come out on top. Actually, you know, so I came up with some answer to, you know, sound smart and be like, you know, winning is not always the goal. I know I'm a winner inside, but that was another stab. But I said, you know, it's cool. I think I can act. I did some acting gigs, you know. I was like, okay, fine. I'm not horrible, so let me just keep doing this. I got an acting gig where I was a singer. My character was singing. Time went by. I remember saying, maybe I can try out for radio as well because I've always wanted to do it. Ended up getting a radio job. Not exactly what I wanted. I was reading the news, but you know, it was going to get me to where I want to be, which was playing African music that's not mainstream. So I was like, I'll do whatever it takes. If it means doing this job so that I can get there, it's fine. Foot in the door. Then an opportunity to audition for a show that was going to tour Europe came about. And I went to audition. I was like, this is something fantastic. I love being on stage. I love singing, even though it's not that great. I love dancing. I love telling stories. So I went for the audition. In fact, somebody reached out to me and was like, we're actually letting you go into stage 2. You don't have to do the first one. And I was like, okay, these guys really want me to be a part of this thing. I went, auditioned, got through stage 2, stage 3, then there was a workshop week. And then after that workshop week, we would be told who would be part of the show. So it turns out I didn't get the gig. I was told, yeah, these are the people who've been selected. But then one person pulled out, and then they called me. They're like, Patricia, actually, wow, we want you. You are not first choice, but we still want you. And I was like, that chick was right, eh? It's like I'm second best. So I was like, this is God's plan. I'm grateful. I won't complain. I got the gig. But in the back of my head, it was also just, I wasn't chosen. It was by chance. And I didn't realize that all these things were sort of just eating into my confidence, into my identity, because then it seeped into everything else, right? My relationships, my friendships, because I always started to think of myself as not the first choice or not 100%. And if anything happened within a relationship where, when you get into a relationship and you're really trying to be seen, so there I am. Interesting story, I'll get to it just now. So I go for this tour, and it's 3 months of an amazing time singing and dancing on stage 6 days a week. And I'm basically just thinking I'm living my dream. And while on that tour, I got to form a friendship with a friend, and we decided, let's form a duet, come back home, and just do this music thing together, right? Because we connected so well, and when we'd sing together, it just sounded great, and it was fun. So I come back home, I ditch all my plans to be a solo artist and decide, maybe this is the plan all along, to be part of a duet and create music with somebody who writes beautifully, who sings amazing. I loved the way she sang. And I was like, maybe, I was okay when I was alone, but together, we'll be 100%, even 150. So here I am making these plans, these new plans to be in this group. We have a name. We even started recording music. And then I left the country for a small acting gig. And while I was away, I see a poster for a gig that she's doing by herself. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool, it's fine. Then I see a song that she's released by herself. And I'm like, hello, friend. So I reach out to her, and I'm like, hey, I've seen this and this. Are we still on the same page? And she's like, oh, I'm so glad you called. I just feel like I need to do this thing by myself. God spoke to me, and in my heart, I just feel in my spirit that I just need to do this alone. And I was like, hey, that's perfectly okay. I support you. I just wish you'd have spoken to me about it, but it's cool. That was another blow. I was just like, wait. So now, here I was thinking that I'm good enough to be in a duet with this girl, and then she decides, actually, no, I'd rather do this on my own. I don't want to do it with her. And that, I think, was now the straw that broke the camel's back. And I didn't know what to think anymore. So for me, singing became a thing that I just didn't want to do anymore, because it hurt so much to think that this singing that I'm doing is not good enough for anybody, right? Even for a peer, somebody who's a friend. She came back, she's like, you know what, I had a change of heart. Spirit is telling me we're actually supposed to do this together. And I'm like, okay, great, let's do it. This is maybe 2-3 months later, right? We start making plans again, and we're writing more music, where we even did a gig, it was really cool. And then she came back again. You know what? Spirit. And I'm like, what are these spirits you are drinking? But, I just said, maybe because I love African music and African artists so much, maybe I'm just really supposed to be a fan. Maybe I'm supposed to be a supporter while I figure things out. Because I was that person who would answer that question of, when are you doing your album? In God's time. That became my answer, because, when people come at you and they're like, why are you wasting your talent? In my head, I'm thinking, what talent are you talking about? Just because you saw me on a TV show, it doesn't mean that I'm good at that thing, because clearly everybody else is showing me that I'm not. And they can't be lying to me, So she decided to do her own project, and I said, you know what, let me just support. let me support. If that's what I'll do best, then I'll do it. I finally got this radio show that I'd always wanted, and I played this kind of music that you don't get to hear on mainstream radio. And I said, I'm going to look for all these artists and play this music on my show. I'll show up for all their gigs. I'll shout out about them. My acting gig, I'll do it as best as I can. I started an improv, well, I didn't start an improv comedy thing, my friend did, but we do it together, and we're like, let's do it amazingly. I did a show of my own, which I wrote, performed in, directed, put together. It's about dating, and I sing and tell stories within it and act, and people came, they laugh, and I say, they're just laughing because of my dating, not because of, it's not because I'm funny. And when they're crying because I'm singing, it's because they're thinking about their own hurt in their relationships. So I told myself all these things, that it's not about the singing. Let me not think that my singing is that good, right? Interesting twist. So you remember that guy who said that thing about my voice? I ended up dating him. Yeah, Patricia. He's a good guy, he really is. But I remember, looking back, I was just that chick who, I washed dishes, I cleaned the house, I did shopping. I'm like, see me, since I'm not such a great singer, but am I a good girlfriend? I don't believe in girlfriends. It was such an interesting twist of events that I put myself in relationships where I was struggling to be seen as an amazing human being, but because my identity of being a singer was so compromised, I didn't think that of myself, right? So everything that I would do, I still didn't think like I was being enough. And this went on not just with him, but with other guys as well. My relationship started to suffer because I would be that friend who's like, oh, you did this with so-and-so, how come you didn't do it with me? Is it because I'm less than, right? Even my family at some point, I was like, why didn't you invite me to dinner that day? And in my head, I'm telling myself, maybe because, I don't know, they don't want to be with me all the time. I don't know, I started telling myself all these things, and I didn't realize that it was just because of this one little nick in my confidence a long time ago. And eventually with time, I started to think that, okay, this is just my personality. This is just who I am. And the people around me are going to have to adjust. But I didn't realize that I was really wounded. And it's only until, we started meeting for this data sphere. In fact, when Valentine reached out, I was like, wounds? Me? I look wounded. I'm living my best life. But deep down, I knew that there was something that was holding me back from being who I know myself to be, just because I let somebody say something which I gave power to, right? I addressed this one small issue with this person, and he's like, I don't even remember saying that, but I gave it so much power. And the thing that I did was everybody who he then admired as a singer or a performer, I'd be like, well, I don't sing like that, so I'm not a good singer. I started comparing myself to everybody else who other people admired and said, this is why I don't measure up, because I don't look like that, because I don't sing like that, I don't act like that. The last time I did my show, Life in the Single Lane, was 2 years ago. Every time I did it, it sold out, but somehow it takes so long for me to put it up, and I realize it's because I'm so afraid that if somebody criticizes it, then I'll be like, even this thing that I absolutely love is not good enough. Coming to this space that I'm in now and having all this hindsight, I realized that I kind of have to forgive myself, right? Because I'd also been beating myself up for then giving this small thing power and letting it grow and letting my confidence suffer. But looking at things now, people would say things like, Patricia, you have to pick one thing. You can't be a jack of all trades and a master of none. Because when I describe myself, I say, I'm a singer, and I say it fast, almost like a whisper. I'm a singer, actress, radio presenter, improv comedian, content creator on social media, and others, right? But even then, I feel like since I'm doing all these things, I'm allowed to not do them at 100%. so that I can give myself a break. If somebody says it's not great, I know, well, yeah, that wasn't 100%. If I give it 100, then you'd be blown away. I almost want to warrant the criticism so that I don't feel bad. But I realize now that I can't live my life like that because I do want to be great. You know what I mean? I do want to be amazing at every single thing. And I'm so grateful that this thing that I was so wounded over allowed me to explore these other things. And now, when people ask me, so, what do you do? I can say very confidently, I'm an actress, I'm a radio presenter, I'm a content creator on social media, I'm an improv comedian, and I'm a singer. Thank you.